But this one is a piece that Greg actually wrote himself. And Greg Chappell on batsmanship, I don't know about the relationship you had, but I found that when Greg Chappell was talking about cricket, I wanted to listen. Because I found him absolutely wonderful to listen to on the whole aspect of batsmanship. And Greg said about Rahul, he became an excellent player because he had thought it through and worked out what he needed to do to succeed. His success did not come by accident, nobody's does I guess, and it wasn't just about hard work. He was an extremely skillful player who never stopped trying to improve himself. If he thought he could get better at something, he analyzed what he needed to do and then worked hard at making the improvement. You got along well with Greg from a point of view of two very accomplished batsmen talking together? And then of course there was the other relationship which was coach and captain, but purely as two batsmen who loved batting and...
Oh yeah, like you said, I thought he was a fantastic person to talk cricket with. Right from the first time that I met him in Australia and sort of introduced us, I thought he was a terrific man to talk batting with. I think he really knew the game. I mean, people like Greg are people in some ways who've grown up with this game. They talk the game, they discuss the game. He's the kind of personality who's grown up in an era of Australian cricket where they would play the game and sit back at the end of the day and spend hours at the bar discussing the game, talking the game. So there was a lot there that he could offer, in terms of knowledge from his experiences of having played the game so much. He was a great batsman himself. I mean, he was an absolutely brilliant batsman. So he knew batting, he'd understood batting, he'd taken the trouble to actually understand batting. There was a lot that he could offer, and there was a lot that he could help young kids with and play.
Yeah. Wow. It's always a captain's team, isn't it? It's never a coach's team. It's always a captain's team. There was an impression that it was as much or maybe more Greg Chappell's team than Rahul Dravid's team. Did you go along with that at all times, or did you think, no, it was my team?
No, it was my team. It was always my team. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Because Greg was a strong personality, and because he was himself a great cricketer, and because of the fanfare and the publicity that came with whatever he did, and at times it could always overshadow the impression that it was his team more than my team or our team or the Indian team. And I think that's the nature of the person. He's the kind of person that can polarize opinions at times. He's a strong personality. He comes across like that. But no, I always felt that it was my team. I was very happy with things and the way they went. I never felt that in any time privately he tried to say that no, this is the way we must do things, or that's the way we must do things, or run selection committee meetings. He had an opinion, and he, like most Australians, he voiced it, and he was strong about it. But I never felt that he took a very, very hardline position on things if I wanted to do things very differently.
I don't want to get there again. There's one thing that you mentioned, and I was trying to come in there, is where these cricketers played the game, and in the evening they would again talk about the game. That happens less and less these days, talking about the game. Because I remember when we used to finish playing cricket, we used to all turn up in the bar and listen to Ravi Shastri talk.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed.
And Ayaz is there. Ayaz would have played 120 test matches worth of experience he would have had just by listening. But does that happen less and less? And is the game poorer because of that, if at all that happens?
I think it definitely does happen less and less. There's no doubt about it. I think people are, in a way, it's the sign of professionalism, if I can call it that, because people are so busy cooling down, having ice baths, having stretches, going to the physio, that this time for this social interaction or meeting people and getting together happens less and less as a team. I'm sure that guys, when they get together and they're in each other's rooms, they still talk about cricket a little bit, but I think the distractions are a lot more today as well. There's so much more. At the end of the day, so many, as in life, not only in cricket, and cricketers mirror life in a lot of ways. There's just so much more to do. There's so much more to switch on the TV and watch. So much more external entertainment, if you can call it that, to do, that people don't want to necessarily hang around a dressing room and a dirty dressing room, a smelly dressing room, anymore. So, yeah, I think that's one of the sad things about the game. I remember growing up and, the long train journeys. Our time, it was a long train journeys. You're playing first class cricket and you're on a long train journey from Bangalore to Calcutta, and you're, in the evening, you're hearing G.R. Vishwanath and a Syed Kirmani talking about the game, or a Carlton Saldana or a Roger Binney. you have, their undivided attention. You're pestering them with questions. They're talking about the game. They're having conversations amongst themselves. You're eavesdropping on those conversations. So it was a great time, and I think that's, a lot of my learning, especially early on, happened in these train journeys, and I really enjoyed them, and I feel that's something that sometimes, we miss today. That creating that environment. I think the knowledge is still there. People still want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But that environment for that sometimes is.
But there would still be young players coming up and asking you about cricket and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, people do that, and that still happens. But it's a different environment when it's a casual sort of environment. It's more relaxed. When someone asks you something, you're sort of giving advice, you're answering specific questions. It's a bit different. I mean, and that still happens. But I think the best learnings are in these casual in these casual encounters and conversations you are having with somebody else. Somebody's eavesdropping on them. Those are the some of my fondest memories of the early days.
You might actually have someone coming up to you and say, "Uncle, did you really travel by train?"
Talking about youngsters seeking advice from Rahul Dravid, Akash Chopra has written an article, and I think he's different again. Akash Chopra is a guy craving, to get knowledge about the game, loves to analyze. He has written a piece, and beware, this is going into real high-tech cricket. He's gone into the trigger movements and everything. I've actually never read a piece that talked about so much about footwork and precise footwork. So he's talked about this trigger movement. Have you read this one? I think you'll find this of interest. Now, he's talked about how he's had to sacrifice the trigger movement, which is basically, some kind of a movement the batsman makes before the ball is delivered. All of us do it. Some batsmen don't do it. Dilip Vengsarkar never had a trigger movement. Virendra Sehwag, actually. There's one instance when I saw him get bowled and the ball pitched, right up, took his off stump, and his feet hadn't moved. Even when the bail had come off, his feet were still on the crease. So these are different players.
Gary Sobers, you see old videos of Gary Sobers, he never had a movement.
So you actually did this. You took off the trigger movement, because as a batsman, I know it's the hardest thing to do, because that's like changing the basic of your game. Now tell us something about that, and then I'll have a follow-up question about what happened because of the lack of trigger movement in Australia. That's what Akash has written.
Yeah, no, I did definitely try and stay a little more stiller. I definitely did try and stay a little bit more stiller rather than trying to have that exaggerated shuffle. I practiced it in the nets a little bit. What I found is that actually after I started playing well, it happened naturally. It happened less and less. When I came into bat early on, the trigger movement would be a little bit bigger. But as time went on, that trigger movement, and as I started batting better and better, it became less and less. So I made an effort to try and sort of stop doing it. And partly the reason was because I was falling over a lot, and I felt that having that movement meant that my weight was.
Do you remember which phase was this where the trigger movement was less and you found instant success? Would be interesting to connect.
I'd say even in England in 2002-03. Again in England, this time I felt that I'd sort of minimized the trigger movement. I don't think you can actually eliminate it, but I probably minimized it a little bit.
So basically you tell yourself, don't move your feet until the ball is...
Yeah, I think you just practice it and you try not to move and just try and react and play. It was part of the thing of just trying to react and then playing the game.
And Akash's claim in this is that may have actually contributed to you getting bowled the number of times that you did. I mean, for me it was unbelievable what happened with the kind of batting mechanism that you have. I mean, there were one or two instances when the ball, you can't connect that going through the defense. I think there was one strong inside-edge situation, one where you were trying to on-drive and get out. But would that be a fair call? The trigger movement, which was a natural trigger movement, had been eliminated, and that may have contributed to what happened in Australia with the bold dismissals.
Well, then it should have happened earlier as well. It should have happened in England, or it should have happened, I didn't do that in the West Indies when I got runs as well. So that's not the only reason. I think my timing went off in Australia. I think my timing sort of went off a little bit. I think it's a tricky one with timing. Timing is such a,
you were late on the ball, or you think
probably it's just a question of when you deliver your bat and when the bat comes down, and that the timing of the bat coming down, and maybe I lost that a little bit. I lost that little bit timing in Australia, and maybe they bowled well. They pitched the ball up, and the thing with these tours and things is there's not a lot of time in between them to analyze it too much. There's not a lot of time to go back and work on some of these small chinks or things that come into your come into your batting. Over a period of time, I'd like to believe in my career that I've had phases where I've had made mistakes, or the timing's gone wrong, or my technique's lost its shape a little bit. But I've been able to pull back and find a way to fight back and find a way to.
So wasn't that a temptation to maybe play one more season of international cricket to prove everyone once again that I've worked out that problem? And if at all you were playing international cricket today, would you be specifically working on that issue? And typically, what would you want to do?
I think I would work on that. I would have worked on that issue, and I did. I mean, a little bit. I know it's just a 2020 format, but I'm sure that there were a lot of guys trying to bowl me out even in the 2020. Guys, I could see guys were trying to bowl straight and line up the stumps. Some of them, but it's an area I did work on. I mean, I'd like to believe I probably don't have an opportunity now to show it off and thing, but I'd like to believe at least that I figured it out and what went wrong. It's hard to sit here and explain the whole thing. But
the way you smashed Samit Patel, we got the feeling that you'd worked out all the batting issues in that T20 match. When your strike rate went from, what, 60 to 180 or something in a matter of 1 over.
That's the beauty of 2020 actually. You can bat horribly for about half your innings, hit 3 balls with 3 sixes, and suddenly everyone says, oh brilliant, what a great knock. But
on debut, don't forget.
On debut as well, yeah.
After which you retired from...
Retire when you're on top.
There's very few people who announce their retirement in their debut game.
Okay. Sometimes, watching you at first slip, I would get tired as commentator. I would think he's such an important batsman for India, especially on overseas tours. You're batting at number 3, you're bound to come after 2-3 overs. So why doesn't Rahul take a break from slips, just to relax, give that lower back a bit of rest, because that comes under heavy strain when you're batting?
I love feeling the slips, Sanjay. I love feeling the slips. I saw, especially when the tail enders came, I always saw an edge coming. They're most likely to edge it, or they're most likely to get out, and I didn't want to miss out on that one catch or being part of that, the opportunity to celebrate with the bowler. But I love slip catching. I found that something that I consciously worked on. Again, something that I wasn't a natural at. I always had good hands. I've always had big hands, so I've been lucky with that. But it's something that I consciously worked on right from a young age. I did as we all do. I started off as a short leg silly point at Karnataka as well. And
but that's a seniority position anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So at Karnataka, I started
your relationship with the captain.
And very quickly, I think there was another junior who came into the team pretty quickly, so I was able to quickly get into the slips. And once I was there, then it's a position I didn't want to, relinquish. And even when the opportunity came to sort of specialize in the slips for India, I worked quite hard at it. I took a lot of catches, and I enjoyed it. So I never really felt it was ever a strain for me. In fact, I enjoyed it. I always wanted to stay there as much as I could. And be part of the action. So no, I never really felt the need to try and, there were sometimes long partnerships, or someone's scored a lot of runs and it's really hot, and then sometimes you do feel that, look,
At Premadasa.
Yeah, at Premadasa, when you feel it for 2 days and, not got a wicket. Probably times like that, yes, there might have been the odd time where I felt, look, and I might have told someone as well, look, relax, why don't you, handle it for a bit. I'll just feel it.
Was it the 200th when you did the most un-Rahul-like thing and celebrated the catch like there wasn't going to be another?
I mean, it was a good catch. So probably it was nice.
There've been many good catches over the years. I mean,
no, but this one was good. I mean, it was like to the left for a right hand. Harbhajan's bowling of Dale Steyn, and to catch it on the left hand side. I thought it was quite special because something I was expecting. It was the way Dale Steyn was playing and the way Bhaji was bowling in Durban, with the ball was not really spinning, but sort of moving on with the sort of arm a little bit. I was sort of thinking that, look, this might happen, be ready for it, and bang, it stuck. It's one of those things that you just, you dream about there. So it was nice. It was nice. It was the 200th catch.
Well, it's also nice to know that for all the runs you make, Vijita says the only time you're upset is when you drop a catch.
Yeah, I get really upset. I come home in the evening and I feel really upset.
It's a crime.
I really feel bad for the bowler because he works so hard. The guys in the field, I found bowling, and especially fast bowling, such a hard art and such a...
You bowl fast?
I tried.
But you got a test wicket. But you got a test wicket.
Yeah, bowling some off spin when a guy was batting 130 and the score was 500 for 3, I think. But but I just really felt bad. I really felt bad. It's, you know, when I dropped a catch, because I felt that I was letting the bowler down. You know, I was letting the bowler down, letting the team down. When you fail yourself, yes, you know, you do feel bad. You come back. You know, you don't. Yeah, you feel you let the team down, but it's different. You know, here you really feel that you let someone personally down. You know, and I think that was something that I really felt bad about.
Right, we got the last one is an essay written by Gideon. He writes a lot of essays, and Rahul Dravid is one of the few aspects of Indian cricket that he doesn't dislike. So here's one. Gideon says, all the same, there is perhaps no modern cricketer better equipped intellectually and temperamentally to make a contribution to the game's governance and direction. Dravid's greatest impact on cricket might lie ahead of him, and that would be a story worth telling. There's a bigger contribution lying ahead. It would have to be a serious contribution to be bigger.
With your retirement, I also believe that there's a great opportunity for Indian cricket to use you with the cricketing experience and what we've been talking about, the intellect, the sense and the awareness of how the world operates and the sport in between all that. So any inclination towards trying to make a difference there?
Look, I mean, I really don't know what's lined up in the future. I mean, it's a great game. It's been part of my life. So I'd always love to be some way involved in it and stay involved in it in some form or the other. What that form takes and how it happens, you know, you'd never know what might happen. It's, I mean, I've got to be a bit humble about it as well. You know, I've got to go out and like a lot of people who I respect and who I feel have been able to really make some good contributions outside the game when they've come back into the game, have always taken some time away from the game. I think, you know, I've been caught up in this for the last 25 years. If I start from when I started playing under 15 cricket for Karnataka, I've lived this game, I've played this game, I've been in and around people involved and associated with this game. You know, I think sometimes it's not a bad idea to be able to step away from it all and go outside and look at things from the outside, from a different perspective, get a feeling of what it is like to live a real life in some ways, you know, what it is to, like I said, I mean, for the better part of my life, for the better part of my international career, I didn't have to worry about anything else, you know, I didn't have to worry about anything else. My sole focus, everyone around me was helping me to achieve what I wanted to do, my family and, you know, my friends and coaches and people, everything was revolved around how I could play cricket or how I could become a better player. You know, I think it's good for me. It will be good for me, I think, to step away and you know, get a perspective of what it is to live a real life in some ways, and then I don't know what form that might take, and come back and I think it's a great game. It's no way that, you know, I can give back to this game. I think it's too big a game for me to be able to give back. I'd love to be associated with it in some way, and what form that might take, you know, who knows? We'll see what it does.
If you're going to spend the next 2 years reading bigger books, don't tell us which books you've been reading. You've done that enough. You've done that enough.